Welcome to Focus Schools podcast, Leading for Impact. My name is Brett Bishop, and I have been working with Focus Schools for quite some time, and feel like it's been a great thing for me because I get to watch and partner with lots of folks doing really good work for kids, and that's something I really enjoy and have had a lot of great experiences that we're trying to bring to this podcast as we collectively bring them together as a group. And I'd like to welcome my good friend and podcast companion, Kathy Crum. How are you today, Kathy?
I'm great, Brett. Thank you.
Great to see you. And we are both excited because we have a mutual friend and person we admire a great deal for the work he's doing joining us today. And so I'd like to say hello to Keith Kincaid, the principal of Sandburg School in Springfield, Illinois. Welcome, Keith.
Hi, thanks, Brett. Hi, Kathy.
Hello.
So, Keith, I wondered if you might just start by telling us a little bit about the school you work at, of which you are so proud.
Sure. So Carl Sandburg Elementary School in Springfield, Illinois is a K-5 building, kindergarten through fifth grade. We house about 275 students. We're part of Springfield Public Schools, District 186. I've been the principal here for 25 years now. It's hard to believe. I grew old here. And like you said, it's a place that I'm really proud of.
Yeah. So Keith, we've been knowing each other for a very long time, and you are a master principal. And so when we have people on our podcast, we like them to be able to share with people about the great work that they're doing. And today, I think that we're going to focus on the first three parts of the framework, which is strengthening leadership, empowering teams, and growing a culture of just learning and belonging. And you basically exemplify just mastery at all three of those things. But in particular, I've been always impressed with the way you use communication to make those things happen. And so I kind of start at the bottom because, culture is probably the most important thing. But of the three things I said, beginning with culture, give us some ideas about how you have used communication to build the culture at your school.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, every single thing we do, it is communicating something to our families, to our students, to our staff, good or bad. If you go in your office and you close your door, you're communicating. You're sending a message. So everything we do, I try to be welcoming, nurturing, creating relationships, and transparent. That's a huge piece, to be transparent so everybody knows what you're thinking, what you're doing, what page you're on, in everything. And so anything I do, I'm always trying to think of what are the communication pieces that are going to help make this successful. I think that, that principal visibility, we all know how important that is. But you can never underestimate it. I think maybe the first 40 minutes of the school day are some of the most important 40 minutes. I'm out every single day. I'm out in front of the school, getting kids out of cars and off of buses and visiting with their families as they're dropping kids off. And so that happens for the first 20 minutes. As soon as we get into classrooms, another huge important piece of that communication, I always just do a morning check-in with every single staff member, because of course, before the students arrive on their classroom doorstep, maybe everything's fine, but 30 seconds later, once you have, a classroom of 25 kids, you might need something. And so, so I always do that. I always check into just right off the bat to see if anybody needs anything, make sure everything's all right. And so those are two important pieces of communication that I don't think can be underestimated.
Your walls communicate as well. You walk in and the book that you have there at the beginning in the building, would love to hear a little bit about that. And you do have a school. I always say my bar for a school that communicates what they're doing really well is if I can walk through the school and no people are there, but I still can tell everything that's going on at that school. So can you tell us how you've built that kind of culture?
Sure. I agree with everything you just said. It's your building, your walls of your building send a message from the first second somebody walks in the door. And so it's important that those messages right inside the building and even outside of the building send the message that you want to be sent from your school. So I think it's really important as the building leader that I'm intentional with those messages. Just everything has to be phrased in a way that you want it to be. So if the first messages are, don't use this door, that's a problem. If the first message is, don't drop off your child until 8:40, that's a problem. There are different ways to send the messages you need to send. So they're phrased positively, they're inclusive, and it also, your messaging of the building communicates what's important to you. So for instance, you mentioned that we call it the Book of Success, that's right inside the front hallway. And that's one of the things you'll find 2 steps in our front door, the Student Book of Success. And then you'll find pictures of students and pictures of families and all of those right 10 steps inside the front door of our building. And because that's what's important, student success and students and families. And so if that's what's important, if that's what we're about, then that needs to be the first thing that everyone, not just students and families, but staff too, me too, those have to be the first things we see when we walk in the building. It reminds us what we're about. It reminds us what's important to the work.
It's exciting to hear you talk about the intentionality of all of the things that you're doing there. Reminds me a lot of the highest performing classrooms that I've ever been in, where every single inch seems like someone's put some thought into what should be here to make sure that learning happens, kids are served, kids are celebrated. And I always marvel at that, because, when you see it, it's like, wow, this is such a predictor of what's going to happen for children, So I would feel the same way about what you're describing with your building, having never visited, but hearing how you're thinking about that. So the other thing that strikes us when we talk about these focus frameworks, leadership frameworks that we help schools to adopt, is that they aren't silos, right? They aren't separate, and that they're all integrated. And you just did such a good job of weaving together the way that some of these things are integrated in your building. And I wonder if you could just continue with that integration and bring in the notion of the way in which you feel like communication has helped you to empower teams of adults to do their work for kids, and just give us any thoughts about that.
Sure. Well, again, in our building, it's really important to us that everybody feels included and in the know, as it were, because that's the kiss of death if you have staff members who feel like they're not in the know, because then they feel like maybe something is happening covertly, or things aren't well run, or there's all kinds of pitfalls if folks aren't in the know. So one thing that first comes to mind when you talk about empowering teams, for us, we went to, we'd run the gamut with what's the best way to create agendas, to create notes, to share information with teams and the staff at large, and those kinds of things. And a few years ago, we settled on, so we use Google Docs, and we only have actually one agenda for each team throughout the entire school year. I don't know if either of you have ever experienced this, but we'd had so many different agendas and links that then people would be struggling to find the right link to the agenda, and we just weren't being effective. And so we went to the one link for the entire school year, and it's just a scrolling document. At the very bottom, we have developed a template for our agenda, and then right above that is the first meeting of the year, which is just an agenda. And then during the meeting, we add the notes to it, so it becomes the notes. And then each subsequent meeting is just added to the top of that. So it's real easy to scroll down and find something in the agenda from last month, as an example. And then another piece, we built into our meeting time, as it were, a share out time, because we'd also done the piece where, so we have grade level representatives, of course, from each grade on the ILT, and all of the different portions of the building are represented. And then at one point in our history, we had done a piece where, okay, then it was your job to seek out your grade level partners, as an example, and share that information with them. Well, life happens. When you have 25 kiddos come into your room in a few minutes, all of the sudden, sharing with your grade level partners drops down on the priority list. And we didn't want that to happen. And so we just built into the meeting time that share out piece. So immediately at the end of our meeting, we asked the secretary to get on the PA system and ask people to go to, we have 2 different locations in the building that are kind of centralized, and it doesn't matter which location you go to. You can go to either location, and then we have a share out of the meeting right then. So within 60 seconds of the end of the meeting, we're sharing that information with the staff, and everybody knows that we're all expected to be a part of those. So then either we were at the meeting and we'll help share out, or we weren't at the meeting and we'll receive the information from the folks who were at the meeting. And so by the time the kiddos do come to our classrooms that day, everybody in the building already has an understanding of what happened at the meeting. The other piece we have is a portion for feedback on those key messages from our meeting. And that's what we always start the next meeting with, is feedback from last meeting's key messages. And so it provides that, that continuous feedback loop for us. And so that's worked well in our building.
I'm curious, do you get regular feedback from the staff from that? I know you've been doing it for a while.
We do. People ask clarifying questions. Have you thought about this? I think we should be talking about this as well. So, and then we really turn that feedback into like subheadings on the next agenda.
Perfect.
So,
yeah.
So that's helpful.
Yeah. So some other things I know that really do help with the first of strengthening the leadership, your use of surveys, and then also your newsletters, just the communications that you send to the staff and to the families are exemplary. So can you tell us just a little bit about those tools?
Sure. So I do a weekly staff bulletin, of course, for the staff at large, and then throughout the week, as technology has evolved, I've tried to evolve with it. So they also get regular texts that are on a staff text thread, so they can get that just-in-time reminder or anything like that. And then we've also moved to, as a building, we use Rooms, which is part of the ThrillShare app suite that our school district uses to communicate with families. So every homeroom teacher communicates with their families every single night. And so that's really been a great thing. And then our families, because it's two-way communication, they can communicate back to us, and I can do it on the school level too. So communicate with families multiple times every week, and then they can, communicate back too. So that's been good. We have a social media presence on Instagram, which I always try to give it, because you want to, I think, give different lenses, different looks at your school for families and for people who value your school. And so we try to do a little more of a behind the scenes kind of look on Instagram. Then we still do a school newsletter. I do it every 2 weeks because I think there's a place for that. Some people still prefer to have that paper. However, the past couple of years now, all families also get electronic copies of everything that goes home in paper form. We also I send home to them electronically. So I just try to make sure that I'm using lots of different modes of communication to keep people so they feel like they know what's going on at school.
Yeah. Yeah. How about the survey? Tell us more about that
Sure.
one.
Sure. So we just finished a parent-teacher conferences, and so we asked folks to do a survey for us. We did it as a Google survey and asked about learning and academics, of course, school culture, communication from the school, and then just some general kinds of questions for feedback. We had a really good response rate. Over 70% of our families responded. And we tried to make it worth their while. While they came in for parent-teacher conferences, we had a QR code right there at that front welcome table and explained to people, hey, would you please take this survey for us? And you can shoot this QR code here at the table. And then if you take it while you're here waiting for your parent conference, or maybe after you're finished, and you show us the completion screen on your device, then we'll put your name here in this drawing for an Amazon gift card, because who couldn't use an Amazon gift card? And so I think that really helped boost our response rate, and the feedback was very, very positive. It was I shared it with the staff at just last week's PD, a week ago this coming Wednesday, and they were very, very proud of the feedback they'd received. The staff works hard, and so it was sort of nice to be able to present them with that kind of positive feedback.
That's awesome.
That's so cool. I love it. And it's sometimes it's like those kind of things, the simplest things can really help with something that's really challenging.
Yes.
It's like just this little simple, thing that we could do, and for whatever reason it works. Well, great. Get a little more information. And I think I value when we are efforting getting as many voices as possible being heard.
Yes.
One of the experiences I had that perhaps was a sobering one for me was when I became a principal, and I learned that there was it felt to me inequitable access to leadership in communication, both at the district level and to me as a principal. And so what I felt like I wasn't hearing from lots of people who I should be hearing from, and surveys were such a gift because they made it so like we could see, oh wow, we heard from 70%, as you said. Then now we're talking about, well, this is a large enough sample size to tell us what lots of folks are feeling. Yeah.
Right.
So I wonder, just one more thought that we had was just, if you were to be talking to, say, principals about, the idea of communication, is there anything that you would say, that you would suggest for them to keep in mind in terms of like the balance of it, the challenges of it? Are there any things that you've learned that you could share that might be helpful for those who are in school leadership positions?
I think use as many communication avenues as you possibly can. Digital communication, printed communication, verbal communication, but remember too that it's not just printed and verbal that has strong messages. That's that visual culture of the school that we talked about earlier, that sends strong messages. We've all heard that your actions speak louder than words, from our mothers or grandmothers or somebody, but it's true. What you see and the things that you put your time behind sends a very, very powerful message about what's important in your school. And I think don't shy away from opportunities where you'll get some critical feedback. That's how we grow, right? We've done parent surveys before where somebody will just put some zingers in there, and those hurt. You have to have on your armor sometimes when you read the feedback from surveys, but there's a reason why people give that feedback. And so we need to consider that, okay, I think I understand why this person said these things. And, that's going to be how we grow. And we do team surveys too. As an example, the ILT, we always send out a survey to our entire staff. What's something the ILT did well this year? What's something that you'd like to see the ILT get better at for next year? What are your professional development needs? And is there anything else you want the ILT to know? That's all there is. And we've used that survey each year for a number of years, and it gives us really meaningful feedback so we can get better as a leadership team for the school. So I think don't shy away from those opportunities to get critical feedback. Positive feedback is always real nice, but it's like wetting your pants. It's warm and not everybody knows about it. You're the only one who but you have to have the critical feedback too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just knowing Keith on a personal level, all those things you said for sure. And just your own presence as a principal and a leader too, I think, and knowing what's important when you talk to Keith, you are not confused about what his school is all about. He can tell you very succinctly with clarity what is important to them and what they're doing well with and what they need to improve on, and et cetera. So just, I think, as any level of principal, just having always that presence, I think of I am the principal and this is who we are and this is what we do, and being able to really articulate that clearly. So
yeah,
and he does a beautiful job of that.
Yeah, it's really clear in listening to you talk, Keith, and I could be in this seat listening to you for the next 24 hours. I would love it. Thank you so much for taking your time to share with us and subsequently the clients and folks who might listen to this afterwards. We so appreciate it and understand congratulations are in order for you, as it sounds like you have a big event coming up at the end of the school year. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. This is my last year as the principal of Sandburg School. I'm retiring at the end of this year, and I have very mixed feelings about it. This is a place I have loved for a very long time.
Yeah, it is. That is a hard decision when you come to it, and a huge loss for them there to have you not there as a principal, and you've done amazing things there. So much to be proud of.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for joining us today. And thanks to all the folks who may have listened in to Keith's words. We appreciate you being here, and we would invite you to perhaps visit the Focus Schools website for multiple opportunities to engage with folks across the country who are doing the same work that you are. We have our social media connections are all on our webpage, and also there are opportunities like our blog and other podcasts like this one. And we would love for you to like and follow and join in with lots of people who are doing the same work you are. So once again, thank you to Keith Kincaid, principal of the Sandburg Elementary School in Springfield, Illinois, for joining us today. And thanks to all who are listening. We are so appreciative of the hard work you do on behalf of children who need you.